Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the February 24th, 2025 meeting of the board. Call the meeting to order. All members are present. Thank you for being here. We have just adjourned from an executive session for the purpose of discussing strategies with respect to collective bargaining as it relates to the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees, Unit 1703, Local 2. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Subsection 3. And for the purpose of discussing litigation in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Subsection 3, Insurance Counsel. And with that, would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all for joining us. We'll start off tonight with transmitting of Treasury warrants. We have Treasury warrants 2533, 2533W, 2533T, 2533S, 2534, 2534W, and 2534T. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. We have one set of minutes from February 10th, 2025. Would anybody like to offer a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded multiple times. Mr. Kyra wins the coin toss. So we have a second by Mr. Kyra. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Which brings us to our 7 o'clock appointment. And anybody knows me, knows that I love discussing the summer. So it's with that I welcome Mr. Giroux and members of the 4th of July Committee for a public hearing to request to conduct a carnival in conjunction with the 4th of July festivities. Mr. Giroux, good evening to you.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see everybody. I can't believe it's been a year about since I was last here, so here we are again.
Thank you. And before we begin, and I know you have a lot of good news for us, I do want to open, this is a public hearing, so if there's a motion to open the public
So
hearing.
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor? It is unanimous. The public hearing is now open, and once again, we welcome you, Mr. Giroux.
Thank you.
Here this evening, again, on behalf of the 4th of July Committee to request approval for the 2025 events on town property, and a number of different exciting news. I'm sure you'll share more with us.
Yes, sir.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you very much. So first and foremost, thank you for the time. I'd like to thank the members of the 4th of July Committee. There's several of them sitting behind me that work tirelessly year after year to produce some of Wilmington's most coveted events. So I'm here tonight to request formally 6 items, and if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to just briefly dive into each, and then perhaps we can open it up for discussion and then vote, if
Please
that
do.
works. Great. All right, so first and foremost, we are pleased to present this year's 2025 Fun on the 4th. This year will mark our 43rd Fun on the 4th. Last year, you may recall, was a bit unique. Obviously, we were enduring several challenges, including the construction of the new town hall school admin building, and the superintendent was gracious to, permit us to use the high school parking lot. It worked out well for last year. That was certainly, as discussed with the school department and as agreed with the school department, a very much temporary basis. So now that we have the parking lot back this summer, we are looking forward to having the carnival back over in our home, if you will. I should start off by mentioning I have had several conversations with the town, specifically with George Hooper, who is running the projects for the town, to discuss logistics for the Fun on the 4th, knowing that there's an active construction project on the site, and George assures me that much of the construction should be wrapped up by the time we have the Fun on the 4th this year, to which we will, of course, work with the town, including the police, to make sure that the environment's a safe and conducive environment with, potentially construction going on. However, at that point, it should just be punch list, in the building. They should be wrapping up, much of the heavy construction work. So Fun on the 4th this year, we are targeting June 25th or June 29th with the rain date of June 30th. The carnival, which I'll talk about more in the next request, but the carnival will operate from Thursday through Sunday with the rain date of Monday. So we would like to request the board gives us permission to use the town property, which includes the Swain School parking lot, and also the town common. As has been tradition, we are looking forward to having our annual Wilmington Night on Wednesday evening. This was an event that we debuted last year. We kind of debuted it as a soft opening to the celebration, a night for Wilmington residents by Wilmington residents, featuring a lot of great free family entertainment and programming. This year, the Wilmington Memorial Library will be doing much of the entertainment for this year's Wilmington Night, so we're very excited to partner with them. The carnival is not open on Wednesday, as a reminder. Instead, it's a night for families to come together on the common for a couple hours after work, enjoy the company of one another, and then hopefully come back on Thursday when, much of the other celebration elements kick off. We are also looking forward to presenting the annual Family Day. That'll be on Saturday, as it has been in the past, and then the Family Day fireworks that evening. And then on Sunday, we will have what we've always traditionally called our big night, which will have the spectacular fireworks. There is no rain date for the Saturday fireworks. However, if it rains on Sunday, then the rain date is on Monday, as has been tradition in the past. I do want to pause here and briefly mention a brand new element the committee is very excited to debut this year, and that is a brand new event on Friday evening, which is a large outdoor laser show. So the committee has partnered with an award-winning outdoor laser production company out of Newburyport. Those that may be aware, outdoor laser shows are starting to be the trend right now. A lot of towns are scaling back budgets on fireworks and large outdoor events, and they're turning to these laser shows as a great way to culminate community spirit. Essentially, picture it as these big outdoor lasers that will be hitting this big screen that's going to be erected on the common. Lots of great music going on. There'll be a big Boston-named DJ that'll be there. The laser show will be, roughly around 9 p.m., about a 25-minute show, and then it's all over. But it's a brand new element, and it's also great for families and especially children that have sensory issues. There's a lot of issues nowadays with, noise, things like that. So, fireworks may not be conducive for that population. So the laser show, we thought, might be a great way to really encompass, various, abilities of those in the community. So, personally, I think it's going to be a great event. There's a lot of towns that do these big laser shows. I think what's really unique about Wilmington is we're not taking anything away, we're only adding. A lot of towns are scaling back fireworks, and they're turning to these big outdoor laser shows. We are very happy to announce that we can keep the 2 nights of fireworks and then also add on this great outdoor laser show. So the laser show in itself won't take any additional resources. As part of the show, we're actually bringing in our own generators for it. Those lasers attract a lot of electricity, so it'll be a fun event. We've had a few walkthroughs already with some key folks from town, with the production company as well. The town common provides a great environment for it. The lasers will not be bouncing off any houses. Everything will be hitting the high school essentially, but we'll be firming up those plans as we get a little closer. So, really excited. I don't know if this is something we'll be able to fund every single year, but, this year we're super excited that we'll be able to have that in addition to all the great elements of the celebration. Moving on to my second request. Again, there are 6 requests total. The second request, of course, is the carnival request. As the board may remember last year was the first year that the Select Board had purview over permitting carnivals in town. We as in, the town leadership, as well as working with the 4th of July Committee, crafted this great application for carnivals under Section 4.1.9 of the zoning bylaw. So it's pretty much a copy-paste of last year's application. Of course, we're changing the dates and a few other small elements of the carnival request. Generally speaking, though, the carnival will be the same as it's been the last several years. We're looking forward to partnering with the local Wilmington vendor to provide the amusements. The footprint of the carnival may be a little smaller this year, knowing that there'll still be some active construction going on. As I started off, we plan on meeting with town officials extensively as we lead up to the planning and execution of the event. So we'll create an environment that's, satisfactory and safe for public officials as well as public leadership. We are also, we continue to be conscientious. This is about our 10th year now operating the carnival in the Swain School parking lot. We understand that there's a quiet neighborhood in the area. We've been operating in this area for several years. We think, and I think we know the residents pretty well. The residents know us. And we'll plan to continue to work with them on the no smoking signs, the temporary fencing, and to really try and minimize the carnival disruption as best as we possibly can. We're certainly grateful for the town's support for this tradition and trusting the committee for using the town property as well as granting us this carnival permit. We'll also, as we're going back to this location, we will continue to use the quiet run generators. We know that we're in the residential neighborhood, so we'll try and minimize disruption. And then we'll try and strategically place some trailers to block out the view from the residents so they're not staring into the midway, constantly. So we'll try and create a buffer. I think we've done a great job over the last couple of years designing a carnival midway that works for both, those that are enjoying it as well as those that live around it. So, we'll continue with the 50-50 split. We'll try and have as many kids rides to as many adult rides possible. So we have a great environment that's fit for all ages. So that is the carnival request. Moving on to a few months ahead, and that's Fall Fest. We started this event now almost 3 years ago. It's hard to believe. This year we're planning on having our third annual Fall Fest on Saturday, September 27th, with the rain date of Saturday, October 4th. The footprint will be just like year one of Fall Fest, with the town common and the Swain School parking lot being the main areas for the event. I don't have much to speak about Fall Fest in terms of it'll probably be a near copy paste for what most of you guys are used to. I'm very pleased to, see a lot of the board at, a lot of our events, including, our newer events such as Fall Fest. I think you guys all have a good idea for what the event is like. It's a great mix of vendors, community groups, food groups, artisans. Last year, we introduced the beer area to the beer and cider area to the Fall Fest event. I do anticipate we will bring back that alcohol component, although, as you are all aware, alcohol permits in the town fall under a whole different bylaw, so we will cross that bridge when we get there. Tonight, I'm just seeking permission for the event and to utilize the town property for the event. Again, we'll probably be back, early midsummer for the formal alcohol permits in front of this board. So that's Fall Fest. The holiday tree lighting, almost a year away now, but Saturday, December 6th from 3 to 8 p.m. with no rain date. The event will take place in the town common and Swain School parking lot. As has the case been for this event and every event that the committee produces, we'll have ample discussions, including preliminary meetings with department heads, occurring months in advance of the event to plan and execute a safe event enjoyed by all. Moving on to my next request, this is an annual request to place signage on the town common 1 month prior to our events, simply for advertising means. And then my final request for the evening, a somewhat continuous request for years past. However, we're looking to extend this for every single event that we operate this year, and that's the restriction on hawkers, peddlers, and transient vendors. Per section 5J, or I'm sorry, 5.I and 5.J of the town rules and regs for hawkers, peddlers, and transient vendors, we'd like to impose a half-mile restriction for them, essentially meaning that for Fall Fest, the Fun on the 4th celebration, the tree lighting, we are asking the town's permission to essentially ban, like ice cream trucks or folks coming up that are looking to solicit and sell items on the town common area. We've been doing this for a number of years for Fun on the 4th. We've run into a few things with Fall Fest now as it gains popularity, that there's other folks that want to be part of the event. They just don't want to pay to be at the event in terms of selling. So they try and solicit on the outskirts of the grounds of the event. So we just thought if we had a formal permit in place here, then we could solidify that and we can make it a more seamless experience for all. So I think that's everything I have to mention. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has, and again, thank you for your time.
Okay. Pat, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate all the work and the thought and the planning that's gone into this with both you and your committee, so thank you.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is I want to let folks know, first of all, that we do have positive recommendations from both our police chief and fire chief as it relates to public safety considerations for this application. Pat, what I'd like to do is just open it up to members of the board for questions or comments. Then, as you know, this is a public hearing, so we'll go to the audience to see if there's any questions from them. And then we'll vote to close the public hearing, and then we'll take a vote on each 6 of these requests.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
Does that sound like a plan?
Thank you.
Okay. Would anybody like to have a question or a comment? Mr. DePaul?
Good evening. The question I have is with Fall Fest. You're anticipating to have alcohol once again. Will it be the same vendor that you used last year?
I do anticipate it. To be honest, we haven't contracted a specific vendor. When we cross that bridge, we'll be in front of the board for that vendor to be here for the permit. But that vendor last year did an excellent job. We didn't have a single issue related to alcohol. The police had nothing but great things to say about that vendor. So, I mean, I certainly hope the vendor is available. We have had some preliminary discussions, and it does sound like they're interested in working with us again.
Hopefully so, because he did do a phenomenal job last
Thank you.
year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions or comments for the applicant? Mr. West?
Yes, Pat, first of all, I would like to congratulate you. I see some extra hardware in your hand,
It's been a busy fall. Thank you.
but certainly I'd like to thank you and your committee. I know, I look like I see Jack Cushing, been there for, I believe, all 43 years, and other members of the committee, Jen and stuff, and Chuck and Beverly certainly. So it's been a great event. You know, my kids grew up with it. I grew up with it practically. You know, so it's just a great event. And the addition of the Fall Fest I think it worked out well. You know, so I don't anticipate any issues. I mean, is there any issues that you haven't mentioned at all? Or?
The only thing I'll say is after, I should say before, especially Fun on the 4th, we start meeting with department heads just about a year in advance. You know, we debrief the previous year, we plan for the next year. And we always take notes, you know, what can we improve, what can we do better? And the big themes from the last 2 years now that we've had Fall Fest and Fun on the 4th is we have not had any large matters to debrief, which, coming from somebody that plans mass events, that is the best scenario possible. We live in a world where there's a lot that goes on, but the fact that we have hours worth hours of planning sessions to go through every possible scenario to outline what could happen, you know, it warms your heart, and it also just makes you think that you know, it reaffirms why you're doing something. So, you know, I'm very proud of the fact that we plan things to a T. This group's been planning events in Wilmington now for 45 years. I'd like to think we have some great credibility in town. If there's feedback from a resident, a neighbor, you know, a vendor, we have to take everything into consideration. And we as a committee sit around the table and we try and make things work for everybody. So to answer your question, nothing specifically, just that we are constantly looking for improvement and we constantly look for feedback so we can better run our events.
Because I know it seems like everyone has a good time. The weather usually cooperates, so
Yeah.
let's hope it does.
Knock on wood.
And look forward to participating in these various events.
Thank you.
And thank you and your
Mr.
committee.
West? Thank you, Mrs. Maselli.
Thank you, Patrick. Great presentation. I mean, you always have your ducks in a row anyway.
Thank you.
But no, I think everything sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, I hope it'll be a little easier logistically this year with you with the parking lot at the new
Yeah.
Town Hall Administrative Building. So
Thank you.
hopefully it'll be, you know, a little easier to plan
Sure.
out for you. So,
Thank you.
no, congrats and look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kyra?
Pat, thank you for the presentation. It's always top-notch the way you put it together. Just a quick question on the, I've seen laser shows before, and they are awesome. So I'm excited that
Yeah,
you're
that's
doing
great.
it this year.
Great.
It's really cool. But I noticed on the layout, the laser show area is huge. Will people be able to camp out there and sit and watch from that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Seems like it's taking up a big portion
It's-
of the common.
The production package that we're buying is a very large production. So it's designed so folks can be in it, if you will, so the lasers are going over you, or you can be next to it. You can basically be on any part of the common and you can be in it.
Okay, so they can go on that brown
Yeah,
area?
yeah, it's kind of a purpley square on this. They're probably printed funny, but it's essentially the area in front of the gazebo is where all of the production equipment will be set up. So they can be, you know.
So
in it.
residents can still be in this area? Okay.
Oh, yes, yeah, so
That's what
all,
I'm saying.
yeah, gotcha, yeah. Yeah, all of the equipment will be on the common. There likely will be a time that Route 62 will be shut down, as is the case for all the fireworks. Route 62 is generally closed for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's for safety. Before the fireworks start, before the lasers start, for example, there's a mass amount of people on the common. So the police deem it's most effective to just shut the whole area down for a few minutes and then reopen it. But we, of course, rely on their guidance for that.
All right, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that residents were still allowed
Sure.
in that area.
Yep.
And then if you could remind me, and, you know, my concern is the area residents, as is your concern. Was last year, when the carnival left, was it a 10:30 PM to a 2 AM removal time period last year?
Yes.
As well as what you're requesting this year?
Yep, so we're requesting the same exact parameter. So last year was the first official year that the board permitted the committee to authorize the carnival to break down overnight. Leading up to it, when it was back at the old high school campus, it was, they could do whatever they want 24/7. When it moved across the street, there was the concern of, the neighborhood and the noise. So we put in the request last year, let's try it and let's see if it works. We talked extensively with the Adams Street neighbors. We didn't hear a single peep from them. They could reach out whenever they wanted, but they didn't have a need, or I guess they didn't have a desire to call if there was a problem. I think what people like about the carnival breaking down overnight is that they can get the majority of the equipment out of there in a shorter time. If the carnival stops at 10:30 p.m. and then they have to come back the next day, then you're losing a lot of hours of labor. A lot of carnival operators that work nights are second shift workers, so they'll come in with their truck and they'll move rides, but they can really only do that during the night because they're driving during the day. So it's just the norm in the industry. But yeah, so last year was the first year that we permitted the overnight breakdown, so we're seeking that same request again this year. We'll, of course, evaluate it now that we're back in our regular spot. If there's concerns, if there's problems, we'll come around this table again next year and we'll talk about it. I mean, hopefully we'll talk about it sooner, but, we'll adjust.
You mentioned no complaints from Adams Street. Anything on people on Middlesex Ave or Powder House?
I have my notebook right here that the committee knows me well. This notebook is glued to my hip all week, and it has, things to improve for next year, and I don't have any comments in there from Adams Street or Middlesex neighbors. Of course, there's the occasional, the snow fence blew down or the no smoking sign is missing, and we address that as soon as we know about it. But we don't have any material notes to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Any other questions or comments from the board? Pat, I just have one final concern that I want to bring up.
Sure.
Before we open up to the audience, and I just want to ask you, you can feel free to be very honest with me. Did the town manager break your cotton candy machine last year?
He had definitely
correctly.
overworked it.
A few times it went offline, and there was one person operating.
It was free cotton candy. I was just meeting the demand of the residents.
Let's just say it's still resting. We haven't powered it up since. We're gonna short some circuits.
He may need to be reassigned this year, but no.
It's all good.
I'm kidding, of course, and he did a great job. I
Yeah.
think he was actually, before he was even hired, he was there to
Yep.
volunteer, which says a lot.
Yeah, we certainly invite if the town, there have been a couple of public servant groups, I'll call them, in town that would like to have a table at Fun on the 4th this year, and I certainly invite any group that wants to have a presence at the celebration to just reach out and we'll accommodate.
Thank you. Sounds like you have a great plan in place. This is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to be heard on any of the 6 items that we're about to take up, please come forward. Thank you. Good evening. If you don't mind, your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Ferranti, 2 Powder
Good
House
evening.
Circle. So my backyard is literally in the 4th of July backyard. Because of the changes now, there's no barrier at all and so that's my major concern, is what barrier beside a flimsy snow fence is gonna be up there. And the second concern is also the porta potties, to make sure that they're not on our, near our property line, because it is a nuisance. I don't know if Marlene wants to voice some concerns, but we are literally the closest neighbors to the carnival now, which was supposed to be a temporary location 10 years ago, but now is the regular location. So we are faced with year after year of, yes, this is a great thing for the town, we love it too, but, it's even more closer than it was before. And so we want protection, basically, of not having people being able to just literally step over into our yards. It's that close.
Yeah, I have the same concerns. In years past, we've had a lot of trees as a buffer for
Yeah.
the residential part of the neighborhood, and now they're gone. So we just want to know if there's extra care being put into the layout, and is there going to be a buffer? In the past, the Ferris wheel has been right up to our backyard,
Really
so
right there.
now with no trees, it's,
We loved it at the high school last year. It was, it
Yeah.
seemed to work out fine, and.
and
I
we've always
think a lot
loved the
of people-
carnival. I
yeah.
mean, we've never had any complaints, so.
Yeah,
I know we're like speaking like totally in vain. It's not, we know we're not gonna stop this, but we just wanna be respected as neighbors to give as much protection to our property, as we can. I mean, as it is now, we are forced to buy a very expensive fence, you know, this spring, just to keep the high schoolers from stepping over the yard, so. We wanna just give a face to represent that it affects people. All these, you know, town things, we know we abut town property, we knew it, you know, when we bought the houses, but we just want to make sure that, and I know you do, Patrick, I know you do, we've spoke before, whenever we've had a minor issue, we've been able to speak to him. But we just wanna make sure that there's gonna be some barrier. You said there's gonna be a fence.
yeah,
and
well,
there's
I'll
some
likely have,
patrols to
yeah,
you know.
yeah, well, I mean, we certainly
Or-
can't put up a 6-foot fence, but we'll probably have a snow fence to at least create a barrier of sorts.
That's
What does
something.
that mean? What's a snow fence?
A snow fence is orange construction fence. You'll see it around some of the residents that live on Middlesex Ave. We put up snow fencing.
So kind of what was there before, like during the construction?
I don't know what was there before, but a snow fence is probably 3 feet or 4 feet high. It's what you see around construction
And
areas.
then previously, in previous years, they had given like so many yards away from the edge of the parking lot. Will that also, or is it gonna go right?
I can't speak to numbers, but, you know, we're gonna try and design a carnival in the parking space, or in the parking lot that we have that's suitable for everybody involved, including the residents. But we hear your concerns, I know your concerns, so we'll certainly try and address them as best possible.
Are all the rides gonna be in the lot?
Mm-hmm.
And they're the same amount of rides?
Probably a little less this year. We have to see what the final footprint will be when construction's all over. But we know that the footprint will not be what we used to have, especially this year, because there's still an active construction area, and we can't have carnival equipment in the construction area.
Okay.
So, I don't know if there's, any way to safeguard that some of the louder rides, maybe, you know, not near the houses or even near the Adams Street houses, in
Sure.
the middle somewhere, you know, something where we're not listening to screaming and having neon lights in our windows all night. So, anyway, that's our,
So you don't know?
we don't know. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll do our best. You know, I hear you guys, I understand it. You know, I like to think that we always design this event in the best way possible for everybody involved, including residents, so we'll certainly do our best.
Well, in the past, it's worked so well because there's been trees.
Sure.
Now they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Miss Dalton, for the record, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Mrs. Tilsley of Powderhouse Circle as well. Thank you both for, it's certainly not easy to get up and speak at a meeting, so I appreciate your, appreciate you giving your feedback. Ma'am, good
Suzanne
evening.
Crooker, I'm on Middlesex Ave.
Good evening.
We know. I do have a couple of questions. One, I've noticed that the hours have increased this year.
So this year, we're operating a total of 28 and a half hours for the carnival. Last year, we operated a total of 28.
Oh, I thought I had counted 29. My apologies. The equipment, since I had loved having it at the high school last year, you know, it was just kind of nice. It was just far enough away. And so now that it's back on our side of the common, and they're closing at 2 a.m., how long until the equipment is actually gone from the Because a couple years ago, it stayed for a week or more.
Yeah, I don't know, but I can tell you that the carnival has somewhere to be the next day, so I'm sure they'll pack up as much as they can and they'll be on their way. They obviously owe the parking lot back to the town to clean, so we'll, do our best.
Okay. And are the Boy Scouts going to be down at my end? Because they use my water.
We haven't had our meeting with the groups. We wait for our permits, but I assume they'll be back and I assume they'll be in their regular spot.
You already mentioned the smoking utensils.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mrs. Kroger.
Mr. Bendel, just a follow-up, if I could, based upon what I heard. Is there any consideration, Patrick, of doing the carnival in the same spot you did last year, running it the same way, until the town hall is completely finished and the fencing is taken down and the parking lot is completely finished? And that way there, you can move the carnival rides away from Powder House a little bit to the new area of the parking lot. And that way there, you're helping out the residents, you're putting it in the same spot which you're used to. You said it went over extremely well. The residents on Adams Street had no problem. And we keep people away from an active construction site, which always scares me, and having, youngsters over in that area. This way here, I'm assuming that the way the construction is going will be done by the end of the year. And now you'll be able to, next year, go back to where it used to be and spread that out a little bit more, and away from residents.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kevin. We have talked extensively about keeping it, as we did last year, and then moving it back next year. Last year's planning was a lot, and it took a lot of buy-in from folks in town, specifically the school department, to permit that. I was at this meeting in March last year, which was the last day possible that we could pull this off. The school department has a tremendous amount of activities that occur at the high school campus in the summer. That school is full. I mean, I had no idea until I was doing this last year, but they rearranged a lot of their June and July programming to other school campuses to accommodate the carnival to be there for, 5 days essentially. And it sounds crazy, but those 5 days of impact on a school curriculum, really means that they have to kind of redesign the way that they do things. So could we pull it off last year? Yes. I don't know if we can do that again this year with the school department and what they need to accomplish. That and the curbs in that parking lot, the event itself went well, but the logistics in that parking lot are very difficult. There are a lot of traffic islands in there, and just the environment with folks walking in an active, carnival area with all the curbs, it was a very dangerous environment. With folks walking around and not realizing where all the curbs were. So could we do it? Possibly. Timing-wise, I don't know if we could get on the school committee's, the school department's agenda at this point of the year. But, I'm confident in the sense that if we do it across the street in, our normal spot this year, despite it being construction, I think it'll be a lot lighter construction than what it looks like now. It'll still be a safe environment for everybody, including kids running around. The police had a really good plan for Fall Fest this year. Fall Fest took place in that parking lot, and that was a major construction zone at that time. And we had a really, really good plan. And I anticipate that plan will be executed again this summer, should that area be another active construction area.
Just in follow-up on that, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you had the Beer Fest in that area, not active carnival rides. But with that said, have you talked to the project manager from P3 and George Hoopa?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To
Yeah.
get their opinion
They're-
as well
Yep.
on that area with the residents and the...
Yep, I've gotten their opinion and their approval, and I've been invited to I believe it's their April meeting, so we could start to talk logistics for the summer. They've invited me to one of their meetings to basically talk about everything. George really wants to make this work. He knows that last summer was a major disruption for this event, and he's assured me that, we can still have this event. We can have construction on its right schedule. We can get the building open on time. We just need to bring everybody around the table and get, everybody on the same page. But he's assured me that we should be a go.
And there will be, in the new parking lot at Town Hall, there will be islands
Yep.
and foliage and trees as well, just as there is at the high school.
Not to the extent that's in the high school. The high school is a whole different environment with the U shape. Yeah, no, we've actually done we've taken the plans of the new building and we've overlaid it with the carnival, and it's a much better environment than what the high school parking lot is. I totally get the concern. It's just night and day with what is across the street.
Thank you. Mr. West?
And I guess in respect to the residents that we've spoken, that spoke out, and there's probably a couple more that probably don't want to speak but have the same concerns. If, whatever you can do to alleviate any issues, specifically, like the two ladies said about Powder House, being a little bit different now,
Sure.
the configuration of the town property versus the private, so if there's things that you can do to make it a little bit more accommodating as best you can, and hopefully, you guys will be, at least somewhat satisfied to get it mediated a bit, so.
Definitely.
It's always good to hear from the residents, so.
Mr. De Palma?
Regarding Powder House again, since we're on that subject right now, you were saying that it would probably be one of those snow fences. That orange, 3-4 foot tall. Have you
Yep.
considered the portable chain link fence? Like what they're using to wrap the construction area for the new town hall on?
Yeah, I'd have to price it out. I could certainly take it under advisement. This is a very expensive event as it is, but I certainly understand there's, a neighborhood next to it, and we try and meet halfway, at least create a barrier that separates the events.
I'm just trying to give you an
but,
idea. I
yeah.
know there's going to be a cost involved.
Sure. Yeah, we'll talk about it, and we work with the DPW as well. They, the committee procures a lot of these elements, and the DPW helps set them up. So we'll work with them to see what's feasible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else from the public like to be heard on this matter? Sir?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Lou Samaglia. Full disclosure, I was on that board for almost 20 years. And I know it's a lot of work, and the world I roll in, leadership is an important thing. And from Jimmy Stewart for many years to the late Scott Garant, you can't make everybody happy, but you gotta lead and do what you can do. And to continue on with this mission, I think Patrick's done an amazing job. And restores my youth in America.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mrs.
Chair,
Smaglia.
And don't get me wrong, I think he's doing a fantastic job as well, but we also, Mr. Smaglia, have residents nearby that are concerned, and we have to address those concerns as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't minimizing anything. Like I said, you can't make everybody happy, and there's work to do on it. I'm sorry if I came across, no, I'm not minimizing any problems. I was just giving them an attaboy. That's all.
Thank you both, gentlemen. Okay, at this time, is there a motion from one of my colleagues to close the public hearing?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Motion's been made by Mrs. Maselli. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. De Palma. Mr. Cushing, we can call for a recess if you need it. All those in favor of closing the public hearing? It is unanimous. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to take up each one of the requests. Starting with the first one, is there a motion to approve the 2025 Fun on the 4th dates as described?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous for the Fun on the 4th. Item number 2, the carnival request as described. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3, the Fall Fest for September 27th. A rain date of Saturday, October 4th.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Also unanimous. Item number 4 is the holiday tree lighting in December 6th, as described.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Also unanimous. The signage request for the town common.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. And last but not least, the restriction of hawk and peddlers and transient vendors request.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? He's unanimous. Beverly, we got that? I was moving quick. Sorry. She's pretty good.
All approved.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as you can see, unanimously supported on all the requests by all 5 members.
Appreciate it. We'll see you
So-
guys in a few months.
Thank you very much.
Best
Thank
of
you,
luck.
you and your
Thank you.
committee. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we do have a second public hearing this evening. Otherwise, we'd flip things around. We have a public hearing tonight regarding the acceptance of the streets at town meeting, this upcoming town meeting, for Eleanor Drive Extension, Murray Hill Circle, and Eagle View Drive.
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
make a recommendation that we open the public close and open the public hearing.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, to open the public hearing, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, the public hearing is now open for the street acceptance. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As noted, this is a public hearing regarding the street acceptance of the following streets: Eleanor Drive Extension, Murray Hill Circle, Eagle View Drive. The order of layout was in the packet, and this would be referring, I believe, to town meeting.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, this is a public hearing. Would anyone from the public like to be heard on this particular matter? Not all at once. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Oh,
Seconded by Mr. Kyra. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. And now, finally, is there a motion on the request?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. De Palma. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. And finally, we want to welcome Taylor Hurst, Eagle Scout candidate, back to room 9 here. You may recall, Mr. Hurst has been here before, and clearly he's prepared.
You can take that over to the desk.
He's accompanied by the one and only, his father.
Yeah.
He's back. Oh, and Lou's here too, everyone. For the record, Lou's here. Mike Frotten's here. You got a pretty good crew here, Taylor, with you. Taylor, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Thanks so much for being here. I know it's a school night, and we've kept you a little bit longer than I would have liked, but we're happy to have you, so
Thank you for
please,
having me.
you're very welcome. Thank you. Please let us know about your project.
Good evening and thank you for having me. My name is Taylor Hurst and I'm a Life Scout from Troop 56 here in Wilmington. I'm here to talk about my Eagle Scout project proposal, which is the installation of a Gold Star family monument for Wilmington, Massachusetts. My Eagle Scout project proposal includes the construction of a Gold Star family memorial in Wilmington, as I will be installing the memorial, and the memorial is meant to commemorate and honor Wilmington's Gold Star family. I've met with Mr. Lucimiglia and Veterans Affairs staff on multiple occasions to discuss my Eagle Scout project proposal, which they all support. The Gold Star Family Monument is a way to recognize and honor all Gold Star families, especially Wilmington's. The monument will also raise awareness because most people think of Gold Star family as the immediate family only. The Gold Star family includes both immediate and extended family. This is relevant to me because my family is a Gold Star family. I have had a cousin who fought in the Vietnam War as a pilot. He was shot down over Vietnam and is considered missing in action, MIA. His name is on the Vietnam Memorial Wall. It was in our discussion with Mr. Semiglia that I learned that my family is a Gold Star family. The monument is another way to memorialize those who have served the ultimate sacrifice and paid the ultimate sacrifice. This is also where members of the community can come and pay their respects to those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and honor those families. Working with Veterans Affairs, we came up with the following, which will be engraved on the stone. Gold Star Family Memorial, a tribute to Wilmington's Gold Star families and all their relatives who sacrificed a loved one for our freedom. Dedicated May 26, 2025. This is a mock-up of the stone. This is the black side of the monument, which we plan on putting a black, and the plaque will say, Taylor Hurst Eagle Scout Project, True 56, Wilmington. The location of the Gold Star Family Monument will be at the town common where the flags and 2 other monuments are. My monument will directly be facing Wilmington High School. My scope of the Gold Star Family Monument. I will monument design. I will also be coordinating the engraving etching of the stone. I will be creating a base for the monument. This includes digging and pouring concrete footing or slab, coordinating transport of the stone with the DPW. DPW has agreed and will install the stone. Stone has been procured by the town of Wilmington, located at the DPW. The length of the stone is 45 inches, the height is 29, and the depth is 24 inches. Fundraising and cost. I am estimating the cost of the project to be between $3,000 to $4,000. I plan on using GoFundMe and donations to fund the project. Excess funds will go to the Wilmington Veterans Affairs per Eagle Scout Project guidelines. My timeline is to have installed by Memorial Day weekend. Veterans Affairs has been dedicated or will be dedicating it over Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Taylor, excellent job, Taylor.
Thank you.
Very, very, very well-prepared presentation, and I can't express to you how proud we are that you're here again, right? As members are well aware, this is Taylor's second trip to here in front of the board, and I just really appreciate your perseverance, okay, your dedication to this project. I know the first one, we had to make a little plan B, and now you're back, and I think you have an incredible project. I can't think of a group of people that are more deserving than Gold Star families, especially just like yours. So I think this is an incredible idea, and obviously you put a lot of time and thought into it, and we're really glad that you have. Really glad. We're really proud of you. I want to recognize Mr. Smaglier is here, our Director of Veterans Services, if you're not aware by now. Lou, welcome back to the room.
Thank you. I like it now because I can leave.
I've heard that's nice.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing this young man right here. Not only is he a Gold Star family member, he, as you mentioned, had to adapt and overcome. He had a very big project that we worked on. The logistics just couldn't work out over years to come to take care of the flagpoles. But he didn't give up, and he adapted and overcome, and we got together, and he had a couple of different ideas, and he come up with this. He's worked very hard to get to this point. We met with the town manager. This young man right here is doing an amazing job, and where he wants to put it, it's going to be right on the common, and maybe down the road we have another monument on the other side, and we have a true monument center. Obviously, in the world we roll in, there's no one more deserving than Gold Star families, and we have many of them in Wilmington, some in this room right now. And the care and the compassion that this young man has shown during this project, and I'm sure he'll continue on, has just been amazing. So hats off to another young man in Wilmington that's doing amazing stuff that's going to be around for forever.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I also want to recognize Mike Froughton is here as well, and appreciate his support. And Taylor, I would assume this is your father. He's back again, right? Dad's here. Thank you, Dad. We really appreciate you. And obviously, we're very proud. We can imagine you're very proud also. Anyone like to offer a question or a comment?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Number one, following you in your presentation, I wouldn't have done it. Because I would have got messed up so early on in your presentation. Be proud of yourself for your presentation. Anytime you're gonna go before anyone, what you present is what you're gonna get. And you presented this magnificently. I just want to give you a ton of credit. And I know you're working with Lou and Mike.
Patty?
You-
Patty?
Patty. I know this'll come off in a beautiful show of support. And I wish you nothing but the best. Just make sure you get it out everywhere where people can donate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Yeah.
Mr. Kyra?
Taylor, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for this wonderful tribute to our Gold Star families. It is very meaningful, and it's something that the town should have. I want to thank you, Mr. Semaglia, for your continued work and support with the young kids in town, and you know, it also goes out all the veterans and their families as well. But you're always available to help scouts achieve that ultimate, you know, Eagle Scout project. And I want to thank you and Mike and Patty for what you guys do day in and day out for the town and the residents of Wilmington. And this is a super project, and all I can say is thank you for putting it forward, and I'm looking forward to the dedication of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kyra.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just thank you for the kind words, Mr. Kyra. Patty would be here tonight, but she's actually working on a crisis right now with the family. So she had just texted me before I got here. She's still in the middle of doing some work.
Thank you. We wish her well.
Yes. Thank you, Taylor. This is wonderful, and congratulations on your path to Eagle Scout. I love seeing all the young men coming in here with their Eagle Scout projects, and I think I say this every time, but it amazes me, and I mean this in a good way, and I suppose it's kind of sad at the same time, but that, you know, the different types of memorials we can put out for veterans and Gold Star families and stuff. Just when I think, you know, we have it all, and I think it's wonderful. I mean, the more, you know, it's just amazing to me. And driving by that common now is breathtaking. I'm sure you'll feel that with the flagpoles and all that stuff. And this is just going to add even more to it. So I think this is a beautiful memorial. And, you know, very proud of you and everything you've done. And you know, being an Eagle Scout, you know, that stays with you for your entire life. I can't tell you, and I know I bring this up every time, but it's my time to brag. My son is an Eagle Scout. But, you know, he's now out of college, and I can't tell you how many times he has said to me, you know, he's on a job interview, and it comes up because it's on his resume, that, you know, it's, you know, as many kids that we see come in here, because I think Wilmington is an amazing, we crank out a lot of Eagle Scouts. It's a small group. You know, there's not a lot of you around. So, I mean, just kudos to you, and your parents, I'm sure, have done so much, and obviously Lou and Mike and Patty. So great job. Really proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
If I could parlay on that quickly, Mr. Chair. The flagpoles by Mr. Dan Tewitz, excuse me, a few years back, won Eagle Scout Project of the Year. Of the state of Mass, yeah.
Wow.
The flagpoles that he put up
Well, it
on
deserved it.
Wilmington Common, yeah.
Wow, awesome.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Have an idea about next year's.
Yeah. There we go.
Mr. West?
Vote Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taylor, congratulations. Sounds like a great project. Like Ms. Maselli, my son's an Eagle Scout also, so I understand that the work that's involved, and I also understand the work that's involved from mom and dad as well, to get you to that point to help out, and certainly your Scoutmaster and all your Scout leaders along the way. great idea from, in working with both Lou and Mike and Patty. So I think it's going to be a great project, and you get to join the 4%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
4% of scouts, of people in scouting make it to Eagle, so.
Yep.
So congratulations, and as Lou said, excuse me.
Yeah, Lil.
It's Lou. It's basically the only thing that you can put on your resume that you did while you were a youth.
Yeah.
You know, people will say you can be on the football team, the debating team, whatever it is, but Eagle Scout is something that you'll carry through on your resume. So I congratulate you on that, and I look forward to the Memorial Day dedication. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to recognize Dad, has come to the microphone. Dad, for the record, if you could give us your name and
Sure,
address.
Keith Hurst. So yeah, if Taylor will get his Eagle, but he'll be second generation. I'm also an Eagle Scout as well. So
Congrats.
Congrats.
when he went into Scouts, he said, "Yeah, I want to get an Eagle Scout." I said, "Listen, just do it for you. Don't do it because I want to be like Dad or whatever." And just to forewarn, my youngest son just crossed over into Scouts, so probably in a couple of years he'll be, a couple of years he'll be back again. So,
The next
but no, he's done an amazing job. It definitely was a little disheartening for him to have it pivot because he really wanted to do the Avenue of Flags or Memorial of Flags. So it was a little disheartening, but it was just one of those things. Just logistically, it was just not going to work out long term. But he was been a trooper, worked with Mr. Simigla, being able to turn, pivot, and working on this. So,
Adapt and overcome.
adapt and overcome, exactly. So, and we appreciate your support as well. Thank you.
I absolutely agree, and I think, as you know, this won't be the first time you face some adversity in life, and I think you've handled it very well. Speaks volumes of you, and I think it speaks volumes of the job that your dad, your parents have done.
Absolutely.
The young man that's in front of us tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager, you have a lot of smart people come into your office. You must have been blown away. Taylor came in. What do you think?
No, I wanted to echo all the things that the board has said. When Taylor came in to make this presentation, I was impressed. As a person who didn't make it to Eagle, I'm a Life Scout. I know that hurdle, that last hurdle. It's not a joke. That's a big deal. And so I'm always impressed when someone steps forward and makes that jump. And so I was really excited to schedule this for tonight so the board could hear what I was thrilled to hear about in my office.
Appreciate your support, too. Great. So, a couple last things here, Taylor. First of all, we're going to take a vote here to endorse this, and I have a good feeling how it's going to go. Secondly, I want to give you an opportunity. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're what grade, what school, what do you got going on?
I'm in 10th grade or a sophomore at Wilmington High School. And
you're a busy guy, right? Troop 56.
Troop 56, Wilmington, and I've really tried to pursue this Eagle, so that's why I'm here tonight.
The marching band.
I'm in band,
So you
Scouts.
got a lot going on, right? That's awesome, man. We're really. Anybody you want to shout out? You got anybody at Troop you want to give a? This is your big chance. There's about 25,000 people watching live.
You made him laugh.
No
didn't
pressure.
you?
I
First
know.
I saw him
Works
smile.
every time.
Great.
Shout out to all my friends, family, and anyone else in between helping me come all the way.
Well said. Well said. So here's what we want to do. You're a busy guy. I know you have a goal in mind with that fundraising. So in a minute, we're going to take a vote. Then we're going to take a picture, so you'll be able to plaster that online. We're going to put Lou in the picture because people will click on that. He has a way of raising money, so we want to use him to our advantage. We're going to get a picture. We'll put the monument back up on the TV, get Lou up there. We'll take a picture, and hopefully that will help you on your way to raise some money. How's that?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. With that,
Absolutely.
would anybody like to offer a motion? Mr. Kyra?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Palmer. Any discussion? Other than we're extremely proud of you.
So
Thank you
proud of
so
you.
much for being here and doing this. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Awesome. Can you put that picture back up on the monument?
To the picture of the monument. Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful.
Here we go. Lou, get up here. Beverly, do you mind? Or Dad, we're gonna get a picture. Want everybody? Get everybody up there. Let's get up there.
This is for him.
This.
This is him. This is for him.
You gotta raise 4,000. This is at least $30.
Did you say negative?
Great job. Really proud of you. Yeah, I'll go over here to a balance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mike.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'm gonna put this in there. This is your
Push
project
the
presentation.
cart back and you can.
Okay.
See how he takes a word, squared away.
Thank God we have.
Yeah.
Be the camera. Work with the camera.
Awesome. Great job. Good luck, all right?
Thank you.
So we'll get that picture to us, and we're gonna try to do our best to get it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, thank you.
Good job, kid.
Thank you.
Great job, we're really proud of you. Best of luck, okay? Keep us.
Oh, man, you got it. You got it.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, everybody.
So,
I know. I thought of that.
Going on a good note.
thanks,
Yeah, there we go.
thanks again, gentlemen.
We could save him until the end, so we could go on a good note. That would be great.
So, we'll make sure that that picture gets distributed, and if everybody, we could do our part to help people know about his project, that'd be great. Thank you. And if you could lock it, that'd be great, too. Just kidding, I'm just kidding. Kidding. Okay. Moving on. Moving on. We have our next appointment is, that was good. He's really good. Now Taylor's going to be an impressive young man. Next up, we have a review of the annual town meeting warrant articles submitted by petition. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as folks were aware, we spoke about them in general in the last meeting, but I wanted to read the articles so that if there were any comments or concerns from folks, they could have the opportunity to opine on them. The first article is to amend the town charter, Section E, to establish term limits for elected officers. Petitioner is D. Lesko. The specific language is to see if the town will vote to amend Section 3 of the town charter of the town of Wilmington by adding the following language. Elective officers shall serve no more than 2 consecutive terms, to the end of Section 3 of the town charter as shown in the bylaws of the inhabitants of the town of Wilmington revised, or take any other action related thereto. Shall I even speak about the second one?
Please, and then if anybody has a comment or a question afterwards, we'll take them up.
Thank you. So the second is article to rezone from residential 20 R20 to general business GB, map 42, parcel 53, which is at 306 Main Street by Attorney Mike Newhouse. The language of that article reads, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw and associated zoning map of the town of Wilmington as follows, or take any other action related thereto. By rezoning from residential 20 R20 to general business GB, the parcel of land shown as parcel 53 on Wilmington Assessor's Map 42, which parcel is more particularly described as follows. The land at 306 Main Street, Wilmington, Middlesex County, Massachusetts, consisting of 2 parcels of land bounded and described as follows. Parcel 1, being shown as Lot 1 on the plan entitled Plan of Land in Wilmington, Mass., belonging to William C. and Susan T. Essler, dated November 3rd, 1926, recorded with Middlesex North Registry of Deeds, Plan Book 40, Plan 73. And Parcel 2, being the northerly part of Lot 7 on the above referenced plan, bounded and described as follows, beginning at the southwesterly corner of the premises now or formerly of Bully, thence southwesterly by land now or formerly of said Bully 120 feet to the land now or formerly of Collagen, thence northeasterly by land now or formerly of Collagen 32 and 25/100ths feet to the land now or formerly of Essler, thence northerly by land now or formerly of Essler 139 and 32/100ths feet to Main Street, thence westerly by Main Street 23 feet to the point of the beginning, or take any other action related thereto.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I'm kidding.
Can.
Anybody have any questions or comments regarding these 2 petitioned articles? I'm just going to go on the record and go ahead and say that I just personally plan to rise in opposition of the amendment to the town charter as it relates to establishing term limits to elected officers. Reason being, I'm really grateful that we have people that volunteer and don't get paid to serve our community on this board, our school committee, our town moderator, our members of the housing authority, who dedicate a lot of time, and I've seen it firsthand for a lot of years. I'm grateful for those who step up and do it. We don't have enough people stepping up for positions. It's a thankless job at times, and I'm appreciative that we have people that volunteer. although we don't have term limits in Congress for those paid positions, I don't see why we would term limit really good volunteers, our neighbors who are willing to step up for our community. So just wanted to go on record as that.
And
having
Mr.
said
Bendel,
that.
if I may, I support that. I too will not stand in favor of this for the same exact reasons. As someone who has run twice unopposed, you know, if I didn't run, what would have happened? You know, it poses that question. Maybe somebody else would have, but we're here because we want to be, you know, and I mean that as volunteers. So I agree, it's hard to tell someone, no, you can't volunteer anymore because of that, so
I'm grateful that you do. Thank you.
right back at you.
Okay. Next up, we have final appointment this evening, which is a preliminary discussion of the annual town meeting non-petition warrant articles. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I wasn't exactly sure what the board's preference was to go through this. I can just, you know, there are, at this time, we have, as you can see in the draft that was included, 34 non-petitioned articles. I could, you know, just run through them briefly and mention the general scope of the article. I wasn't sure how this is.
Yeah, please. So each member's been provided with this. This will also be provided to all residents in advance
Yes.
of our annual town meeting coming up in May. So this is still a draft. So if you want to give us the kind of
Just a
quick
overview,
overview
quick
of each
overview.
one, you know,
Okay.
that would be appreciated.
Yes.
You don't have dollar amounts yet for certain ones, right?
Not for the budget ones. No, we don't have dollar ones
So
yet.
if you just want to give us the,
Yes.
you know, 30,000-foot view of each one, that'd be great.
Sure. So the first article, the first few articles are ones that you see every year. They're the votes on the ballot about the elected officials that we were just talking about. Article 2 is to hear reports from committees if there are any. Article 3 is for unpaid bills from the previous year. We don't have any thus far, so I wouldn't anticipate any of those going forward. We paid our last one in December. Okay. Remember. And then Article 4 is to authorize the treasurer collector to have agreements with banks to accept our deposits. Article 5 is the budget. So in that one small article, there's a lot going on there, but obviously that's the budget. Article 6 is the capital plan. So right now, this is there are dollars in the capital plan right now. So that's the capital plan, which has been going through the Finance Committee and was originally presented to this board last month. Article 7 is about PEG access, so that's just our transfer of funds per our agreement to WCTV that we get from the cable providers in town. Article 8 is to, it's kind of an article that appears every year for some town funding towards the 4th of July celebration. Article 9 is setting aside a statute of money for observance of Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Article 10 is to see if we will set aside $750 for the purposes of renewing under the authority, Chapter 40, the lease on the VFW Clubhouse and the American Legion Clubhouse. Article 11 is to reestablish pre-existing revolving funds, one for compost bin, one for subsurface sewage disposal. Article 12 is to establish a new revolving fund with a spending authority limit of $25,000 for use of the fields at the Wilmington High School to offset the overtime costs of the DPW and public buildings staff. The Article 13 is for the sewer division. Article 14 is to set aside money for OPEB. As we've discussed, the funds that are set aside each year for non-pension post-employment benefits. Article 15 is to authorize to transfer some funds into the Capital Stabilization Fund, which is already established by town. Article 16 is to see if the town will vote to establish a pension stabilization fund. And Article 17 is to transfer money into that pension stabilization fund, or if that fails, to transfer it to pay to Middlesex retirement. This is a response to something that Member Kyer has brought up in the past, which is the way the town has been doing it for the past decade, or over a decade, is they set aside additional funding to pay down our pension liability, which is great, and it has saved the town a significant amount of money since we've done it. In the past, that money's been transferred directly to Middlesex retirement, and what they do is they look at our total pension liability through 2036, and they add that extra $1 million that we put in, and it reduces our payments for the next 11 years. My proposal is that we establish a pension stabilization fund, put the money in there, will earn interest for us, and then we have the possibility of actually paying off our pension assessment years early. Rather than it just paying down the amount, but we still takes us until 2036. If we have control of the money, we can walk in 2035 and say, we have enough funding to pay down everything, we're going to want to pay it all off. So it also gives us control over when that payment happens and whether we do that. So, yeah, so that's just that's a proposal that we put in there. Thank you. 17 is to send the money to that pension stabilization account, or if it doesn't get passed, to do what we've done in the past, which is to transfer that money directly to Middlesex retirement. Article 18 is to vote to transfer funds from the 25 budget from one line to another. That's a regular article that appears every year to do transfers in the current budget. Article 19 is to vote to replace the water main. This is by the Water and Sewer Commission. This is the Route 38 water main. This is to take on debt. Article 20 is also to take on debt for sewer, for the construction of the Industrial Way sewer pump station. Article 21 is a preliminary article for what I hope is going to be going forward, to request that the town authorize the transfer of land that I'm going to be requesting that the Board of Water Commissioners vote to surplus, transfer that to the Select Board to be combined with another acre of land that was originally set aside in 1990 as hopefully the new home of the North Wilmington Fire Substation. And that's the first of several different articles in that result in that. The next one down is to see if the town will authorize us to acquire temporary and permanent easements from the Wilmington Health building that would allow for access to that North Wilmington Fire Substation. Article 23 is to see if to authorize the Select Board to purchase on the rear of the Wilmington Health Center's property is a rail bed that runs along the rear of their property. It connects from Salem Street to the rail bed that we own, and this would be authorization for us to purchase that rail bed from the health center. Article number 24 is to do what we voted on earlier today, to adopt the Eagle View Drive, Eleanor Drive extension, and Murray Hill Circle. And so it's several pages that take up that. Article number 25 is to vote to amend the bylaw to
You're doing great so far.
I know. Yeah.
Random draw.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. So this Article 25 is to eliminate random draw. So after I think anyone who sat through the December special town meeting and didn't want to eliminate random draw, I don't understand. I think there's that came out in the exact worst possible way that those things could have been drawn, and there's no reason for it. I think things should be logically located in the order in which they are put into the warrant, and they could be put in there for a reason.
I think the idea of having random draw is so that certain articles won't be stacked, as they say. So in other words, people will time it, they'll come to a particular article and then they'll leave. So the idea of a random draw, I think, is a good idea. I would be opposed to this only for that purpose. I don't think that we should invite people to come and then all of a sudden, there's no one in the audience anymore. So we got to be careful with that article. I wouldn't be in favor of that.
Yeah, so in all fairness, this is something I did discuss with the moderator. The moderator's in favor of eliminating random draw. And I would be more than welcome to hear any kind of like reasons why not. I think that there are things that should be logically associated with one another, and it's much more transparent and easier for the public to understand if the articles that were kind of.
And I get it, and that's why the moderator came to us and said there are certain articles that are sort of like no-brainers, and we want to put them all together as one package and do them right away, and that way there we're not belaboring people's time and waiting on each article. So I believe we take 10 or 11 or 12 articles out at once
Sure.
and get that done. I just think,
The consent agenda.
yeah, I just think doing away with random, and I know it's can be cumbersome and it can be difficult and people have to sit through it, but it's town meeting, it's once, a year, and I think that people should.
I would say this, and just in that having random draw won't stop people from leaving when the thing that they come for gets drawn.
Right.
So like.
Oh, I get it, but you're not gonna get people making phone call banks to come here and change a zoning, or change something that,
Yeah.
it's kind of,
No,
it's kind of tricky. It's been working all these years. I mean, why change something that's working, I guess?
If I could ask a clarifying
It's not
question.
broken.
For this purpose of this article, would this be for non-petitioned articles, petitioned articles, or both?
So right now, it's for both. Everything just goes in the order in which it is listed in the warrant. So the select board,
That's important, right? I mean, obviously,
and so I can understand if petitioned articles should be, if somebody wants to say the non-petitioned articles could be random because they're all being put on by us and not being put on by, and have the petition articles a random draw, that's something I can see as being, because those are the ones who are likely to have, I'm petitioning an article to change my zoning and I'm going to call all my neighbors in to show up. But I can understand, if it's not the will of the board to have that on there, I certainly understand it, but it did seem that in December, the special town meeting was very frustrated by the lack of random draw.
They were frustrated by random draw, not by the lack of random.
Thank you for correcting,
this-
they were frustrated by random draw.
And this is a select board article, so we don't have to put this in here. If the
Correct.
board
No, if the
deems it
board doesn't want to, the
this
board could.
particular time to stay the course. Yeah.
just to clarify, that's a great point you're making, so just so everyone is aware, if you could remind me that I believe at our next meeting, we'll need to confirm these articles. So if something was to
Next
be
meeting, right,
removed, added, changed, I think our deadline's gonna be our first March meeting.
Correct, yeah, and then there's the public hearing with the
18th, I was
the
gonna mention
FinCom
that.
and the planning board shortly, that same week is our first meeting, I believe, right?
All right, that's important to know.
No, the first meeting is March 10th.
And then they're meeting on the 19th, 18th, okay.
All right. So we can circle back on that. I wanna repeat that point at the end.
At
if
the
you
end,
don't mind.
absolutely. So Article 26 is to adopt the Ollie's law about kennels, which is increased fines for kennel violations that were, it was a statute that was put forward by the legislature, and that's at the recommendation of the clerk and the Board of Health. Article 27 is to see if there would be amendment to the bylaws for water use regulations. We'll have the final language on that. Article 28, this is regarding accessory dwelling units. So as for those who follow the state legislature, they passed a change to Chapter 40A that legalized accessory dwelling units in every residential zone if they meet certain requirements. That is happening. That is the law of the land. This change just cleans up our zoning to reflect what the law of the land is, to make sure that our zoning is effectively mirrors what the state statute says about what constitutes an ADU and the size and stuff.
Mr. Chairman, what you may want to do is you may want to suggest having Valerie come in before town meeting to our meeting and discuss that. So it gives an opportunity for the residents to hear. And again, you know, you give her 15 minutes or whatever, but it's a good opportunity prior to town meeting to hear this.
I think it's a good suggestion, Mr. West. I think this one and maybe a couple others that you might want to have make a comment or have people might have some questions on. Thank you.
So that one goes on to the next page, and then Article 29, to see this town will vote to amend the floodplain district. These are the floodplain boundaries. This is something that we have to do to make sure that we are compliant with FEMA regulations and to allow folks in these districts access to flood insurance. So it's something we are required to amend. Let's see. Okay. Article 30, this is, yes, this is to transfer, these are Wilmington Conservation, these are properties into the control of Wilmington Conservation. These are already held for conservation purposes, but are not held by the Conservation Commission, if that makes sense. They're, yes. Article 31, this is amendment to regarding short-term rentals and zoning districts. This is another planning board article. Effectively, you know, talking about, this is Airbnbs for those who are interested. Article 32, this is something put forward by the Disability Commission to name a conference room at the New Wilmington Hall in honor of Dee Giannetti, who served over 30 years on the Wilmington Commission on Disabilities. Article 33, this is a demolition delay bylaw. The gentleman from the Historic Commission actually came and spoke about this to this board. So this is their draft proposal to put forward. That's article number 33. Article number 34 is the first petitioned articles, and Article 35 is the second petition article, as we discussed earlier. Apologize for that taking so long.
No, that's, no, thank you for that. And I just want to make sure that we're clear. Obviously, I welcome any questions, initial questions or comments further from my colleagues. But it's important to note that, as I mentioned, we'll meet again on March 10th to confirm this warrant and take a vote. Then the very next week, on the 18th, will be the joint meeting of the Finance Committee and Planning Board, which, as you all know, at that meeting, they'll go through each and every one of these articles in great detail, an opportunity for residents and board members to ask questions, and all the department heads will be there to answer any questions we have. So I just want to make sure that's, although I forced them to go through that quickly, on the 18th, that is when this will have the opportunity to really dive in. And this document will become public as soon as we vote on it.
Correct.
In March. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because clearly we moved quickly there. But a lot of these are standard stuff, business that the town has to conduct every year.
Yes.
Other things are brought forward by the planning board, and obviously we have 2 petitioned articles this year. So I welcome any questions or comments initially from my colleagues, if there are any.
Article 33,
33?
the delay in demolition.
Yes.
I can't understand why we would want to pile up something else on it where we've got a refuse committee that is going to be reviewing any facility buildings that we're going to be making recommendations for rehab or.
This is private, for private development. This is like this is any development in town. So it's demolition delay. If you want to knock down your house, if it's a historic house, this might apply to that.
Yes, so the Historical Commission came to us about a year ago and have been working on this for quite some time, and I know that they would love to answer any questions about
This
this.
has nothing to do with town properties.
So whether or not it impacts town
historical.
properties, this is historic, this is about historic properties. I believe it would, at this point, the draft would impact both public and
Yeah,
private.
private. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Once again, March 18th is a really important date to circle on the calendar. That's the joint meeting where each one of these articles will be explained in depth. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, we have 2 communications this evening, Mr. Manager.
Yes. So the first is, this is the memo that I had submitted back in December regarding possibly using this tool to evaluate the manager's performance. I hadn't heard any feedback about changing it, so I believe it was, Mr. Chair, a desire to kind of schedule a date to fill these out and submit them.
Yes, thank you, Eric. So just about 2 months ago, as you all recall, we were provided with this document, and thank you for adding it again. But what I would like to do is see if we could, at our next meeting, take a vote to adopt this as the evaluation tool. And if everybody's comfortable with it at that time, then it will become the tool that we will then use in early April. I believe we're tentatively scheduled to take up the manager's evaluation at our April meeting.
Yep.
As that way, I think my recollection of how we described the timeline. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but, so that's my hope. So we thank you for putting this memo in there, and if anybody has any other questions or comments or suggestions, if you want to reach out to the manager from now until March 10th, my anticipation is that we will take a vote on March 10th about the evaluation tool.
The second memo is from Xfinity regarding program advisory. 2 channels that were currently carried on the Xfinity line are ceasing operations. So if you were a follower of Sport TV, part of the Brazilian TV package, is ceasing operations February 25th, 2025, and Universal Kids is ceasing operations on March 6th, 2025. So those will no longer be available. So,
Thank you.
programming notice from Xfinity.
Thank you. Moving on to board to consider, we have about 4 items to take up this evening. The first of which is item number 6, board to consider a letter of support for House Bill 326, an act to modernize funding for community media programming. And I thank you, Mr. Manager, for adding this to the agenda this evening. As you know, we have heard from our friends at WCTV on a number of occasions. Here in the room, we've had the board of directors, we've had communications from the director of WCTV, who's also, I want to add, is here this evening. Good evening to you. And so, one of the ways that I thought that we could help our friends in their effort to help WCTV was to perhaps write a letter of endorsement for this piece of legislation being taken up at the House. Yeah, some of my colleagues may recall that we did something similar to this back in 2017. I believe it was September of 2017. We also wrote a letter in support of a similar bill at that time. So I wanted to present this to the board as an option, and I welcome anybody's feedback. And I also want to recognize the director. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's something you'd like to add here, please, we welcome your input. Thank you, Sam, for being here.
I appreciate that. So I don't want to be long-winded, but public access really came into existence in the late 80s and early 90s. All these stations, WCTV was incorporated in 87. Most stations in Massachusetts were late 80s, early 90s. And the reason for that is in 1982, there was nationwide legislation passed to provide funding for the access stations from the cable companies. So we don't get any money, taxpayer money, from the town to operate. And our charter as a 501c3 nonprofit, we were founded on fostering education for the media arts, covering the community as a whole. Part of that is providing coverage for meetings. We do a tremendous amount. the funding model was great when everyone had cable, but the funding model does not work anymore because that is the sole place that public access gets its funding from. In the last 5 years alone, because of cord cutting, because of people switching from cable to streaming services, which provide no funding, and because of cord cutting, in just raw dollars in the past 5 years, our funding has dropped 30% in just raw dollars. When you factor in inflation, that's more than 40%. The same time, our costs, like inflation during that time, we know is about 22%. Inflation in the telecom space is almost 40%. So 40% inflation on how much everything costs, and about 40% decline in our funding. The writing's on the wall. If something doesn't change, we've only got probably 2 to 3 years left of being able to sustain ourselves. There's a reason why our staffing has gone from more than 10 years ago to 5 total, 1 very part-time. We don't want to make those cuts. We can't afford it. We've cut everything we could potentially cut. And we're doing more than we've ever done before. In 2024, we produced more than 1,100 videos on the Wilmington community in one capacity or another. WCTV had never produced more than 300 before that. Like, we are doing everything we can for the community. None of us will probably ever be able to afford to live in this community, but we love it, and we give it everything that we have. And if we go away, there's basically 2 options for the town of Wilmington, and that is to not have any sort of telecom department, not have the meetings broadcast, or to create a town department like Tewksbury has. And the costs associated with a town department, even after the franchise fees that come in from the cable companies, it runs the town of Tewksbury $700,000, $800K a year minimum, out of pocket, out of taxpayer pocket to run that. And they are really only able to do meeting coverage and a few live broadcasts. All of the creative stuff, the youth program that has more than 100 kids come through a year, they can't do any of that because the reality is a town department is much more expensive. Tewksbury has 2 employees to our 5. The total cost of those 2 employees is greater than our 5. And so this streaming bill would keep it from coming out of the town funding to provide a telecom department or do what other towns are having to do, which is provide some sort of subsidization to their independent nonprofits, because it would treat the streaming services in a similar capacity to the cable companies. The most that potentially could happen is a 5% tax on the streaming service providers. If they pass the entirety of that on to the consumer, if you're spending $1,000 a year in streaming, you'd be spending $50 a year in that additional cost to fund public access. So this really would be a best case scenario in my opinion, because it wouldn't be asking the town for direct funding or anything like that, or the town having to create a town department that they have to fund. It seems like a no-brainer to me. I think it creates a more fair market system because right now the cable companies are having to be hit with fees that streaming services aren't, so it creates an imbalance. Those fees that the cable companies pay, sort of the justification was they're using town infrastructure to provide cable and other services. The streaming companies use the same sort of infrastructure, but they're not having to face any of the costs. So I appreciate the motion to have this letter. I appreciate all your time. If there's any other questions I can answer, I'd be happy to, but thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any questions or comments for the director while he's here?
Sure.
Mr. Kyra?
So, Sam, is that?
Yes.
So this is going to affect those streaming entertainment companies? Is that, so they're going to get charged?
Yes. So it would be essentially a fee or a tax that is directly to the companies based on their sales. Right now, what happens with the cable companies is they have to pay this 5%. The town sort of decides every time they negotiate the new cable licensing contract how much is going to come from that 5% to go to WCTV or go to public access funding. So it would be going to the streaming services. I think the fear is they'll pass that directly on to the consumer. But the costs are very negligible. There's been a lot of studies done that on average, it would be like $10 a person is what would actually they'd be paying per year to fund public access based on people's usage rates of streaming services. And it would be the same, it would be putting them so that they're abiding by the same sort of stipulations and rules as the cable providers right now. Because right now the streaming services are not.
So how does this help you? Do they take that money that
So-
the streaming services are paying and then give it to you?
That's
the
exactly,
cable?
that's what's being proposed. And the sort of fine details are still being worked out, but it would be using that to also fund public access is one of the stipulations, which is the way that we're funded right now from the cable companies, and it's our only funding, so.
And-
Yeah, if I could just provide a little bit of clarification. So right now, the way the law works is cable companies are required to give 5% to the town. We enter into an agreement with a 501c3 WCTV to pass on that 5%. I think this would set up the same way. So that money would not go directly to the public access television. It would come to the town, and then we would have that fund to be a part of a negotiation with WCTV about their services.
And I
believe
would
that's
say,
how it's supposed to be
just about the current funding, there are stipulations like it has to go to telecom. It can't just go into a general fund or something like that,
Right.
which is why we're here and why it is passed on to WCTV, because it can only be used for very specific sort of criteria. But yes, it would be going through the town. The town would be negotiating with us exactly what percentage of that. But the most that it would be hitting the streaming services with is 5%, and it probably wouldn't actually be that 5, but it would be something, which, like I said, our funding has fallen off a cliff because of everybody fleeing cable. And it's literally sort of a life or death thing for not just WCTV, but all access stations. We have a lot of meetings. There's about 70 public access stations across the state at least that after 2025, they don't know how they're gonna make payroll because of how much funding has fallen off.
Okay, and I don't mean to be dumb, but I guess I am because I just take the clicker and turn
Yeah.
it on, right? And I turn the channels. So a streaming service is what, like Netflix? and
Exactly,
Hulu
Netflix,
and-
Hulu,
Prime, Paramount,
yeah,
Disney Plus.
yeah, all
So if
those.
you pay for those, then a portion of that from those individuals will go to this, that's.
Yes,
what I'm
exactly.
trying to
Right now, nothing from them is going to the town and essentially to support telecom in towns, public access, but 5% from the cable companies is. So it would be bringing them sort of under the same expectations and regulations as the cable companies when the view is they're providing the same service as the cable companies, they're using the same infrastructure as the cable companies, but they're not funding public access or town departments in the towns that have town departments the way the cable companies are.
Yeah, I was surprised that one of the comments in here is that the financial statements shall be filed with the Department of Revenue and shall not be classified as public records, which I found kind of odd that you couldn't get that information, but is it, so this is just the House version, then there's a Senate version?
So
Then they go together as?
Yes,
I heard?
that is correct. And the holdup has been at the state Senate level.
Okay.
I will say that the bill has been pulled from the last two financial sessions, even though the last time it had the third most co-sponsors of any bill, because of specific people in specific places that had some power to potentially kill it, standing in opposition to it. And in the access world, the feeling is we kind of get one shot at this, and if it doesn't go through, there's a lot of public access stations that are going to cease to exist in the next couple of years. So they wanted to make sure that it was in the best potential chance to go through.
And one question, I'm sorry for monopolizing. Do you know where our legislative delegation stands on these bills?
Yes. Our state senator Feingold right now does not support it.
And how about our state rep?
He does.
He does.
He does support it, yes. Robertson does support it.
Questions or comments for the director from the board? Okay.
I
Thank you,
would
Mr.
just say that, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, sir. We'll have public comment shortly.
I would just say that Senator Feingold was very gracious. He came in to this to the studio. We showed him everything that we're about. We talked about, all broke down the finances. His hesitation seemed to be on adding costs to the consumer, which I totally get. But at the same time, if you look at the potential cost of a streaming bill versus a town having to create their whole own telecom department, it's, like pennies on the dollar, one versus the other. So,
Mr. Bindle,
Yeah.
can I just, thank you very much
Nope.
for being here and answering these questions, because I was reading this and trying to decipher it, but this is,
thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and appreciate you and your staff for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Okay. Would anybody like to offer a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. De Palma. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote to endorse the letter. All those in favor? It is unanimous. And so, Mr. Slagle, you'll be in contact with the director, and the language of that letter
Yep,
will be
we'll put it together.
sent to the
and-
appropriate places, so.
Yeah, we'll make sure everybody gets it.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 7, board to consider approving a memorandum of understanding with the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees, Local 1703, Unit 2. Mr. Manager. Mr. Manager, if you don't mind, giving us a brief overview.
Yes, so this is MOUs with, between the town and AFSCME 2. They are accomplish two specific things, basically. The first is to authorize the town to adopt different town hall hours. So as of April 1st, we would be changing town hall hours to be Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8:30 to 4:30, Tuesday, 8:30 to 7, and Friday, 8 to 12:30. That would be the first thing that would be accomplished by this. And the second would be the removal of the senior clerk position at the fire department, the senior clerk position at the police department, and the accounting assistant in the accounting department, removing of those positions from the union, and adding a van driver position at the elderly services to the union.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Seconded. Any discussion? Only thing I would add is that this is going to be well-publicized.
Well-publicized, and it's a pilot program for 1 year. So it's going to be from April 2025 through March 2026. And
for the town hall.
just for town hall departments, including departments at the new town hall. So there's a department, IT department is currently not at the town hall, but it will be affected by this when it's in the new town hall.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 8 is a board to consider setting a date for a special town meeting, also on May 3rd, 2025, at 9 a.m. Mr. Manager, I'll let you take this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This would be to set a special, a date for the special town meeting, for a special town meeting to be held at the same time as the annual town meeting to take up the MBTA zoning. As we have discussed, given the ruling by the SJC that happened after the town's December 7th special town meeting last year, the landscape has changed somewhat regarding MBTA zoning, to the effect that the Attorney General's office does have the authority to compel towns to comply, according to the SJC ruling. And so, given the new landscape, I thought it was prudent that we schedule a special town meeting. I know this has happened in the past in Wilmington. Effectively, what you do is you open the town meeting, you recess the town meeting, you also open the special town meeting. This is one way to get around those pesky random draw rules. You have a special town meeting, and you can have it. So this would come up first. So folks who are interested, it would be the first thing on the docket. My understanding is that the planning board is prepared to endorse the same language that was put forward in December 7th. They would be required to do so because of the 2-year moratorium on repetitive petitions, but they're willing to authorize the waiver of that 2-year moratorium in order to put it forward on a special town meeting on May 3rd. We do have, I'm sorry, I apologize. Under the current regulations in front of, the emergency regulations that were adopted by the state, we have until mid-July to become compliant with MBTA zoning. And so this seemed to be the most logical time to do it when it was at annual town meeting.
Thank you. So clearly, obviously, we all remember what took place at the last meeting. You know, folks are well aware that this board stood in opposition at the time. That still may be the case. But what we're looking at is a new set of circumstances. Some new information has come about, some new deadlines have been imposed, and therefore, we felt compelled to bring this forward, as we've done in the past, right? We put things on the warrant all the time that sometimes we don't favor, but it's important that this board gives the community the opportunity to make that decision. And so that's what we're faced with tonight. And I just want to be clear that we're not taking a vote in favor of this zoning act or opposition to it. What we're being asked to consider is to put it back on the warrant based on the new guidance, new information, new deadlines that we have been given. Is that correct?
Correct.
Anybody have any questions or comments on that? Or Mr. West?
Yeah, now, there's been some, I guess, late-breaking news regarding exemptions from the MBTA. I don't know if you wanted to talk on that, or if we want to talk on that at our next meeting to, see if we can find out more information about that.
Sure, yeah. So late last week, there was a determination by the state auditor that the MBTA zoning change constituted an unfunded mandate. I have spoken with town council about it. They are investigating it, primarily to determine whether or not that's a substantive issue or kind of a paperwork issue. It is, I believe, possible to pass legislation and in that legislation say this is not subject to that law that talks about unfunded mandates. I would imagine if it is simple as going back and amending it, this may not be a substantive issue at all. If the legislature turns around next week and says, we're just amending it so it's not subject to it, but that's why I'm waiting for guidance from town council.
Because I did talk to the chair of Middleborough Select Board, and evidently they're petitioning Superior Court on Wednesday. And again, they're trying to make an exemption so that they're also not penalized. So I don't know if other towns are doing the same, and I'd like to see. Personal opinion, I'd like to see if we can investigate that with our town council to see if there are ways that we can, be exempt without the punishment, if you will, or maybe with limited punishment. I hate to use that word because it's, going back to Mr. Bendel's analogy of, of little kids but like I said, it's just that I think that, because we did have an initial vote to not support it within the town, I think that we need to pursue that avenue as well. And I'm in favor of bringing it to the town again, but I think we need to bring all information to this special town meeting so that the residents have a clear picture of what they're really voting for.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, Mr. West, and I would imagine, it sounds like Eric already has reached out to council. And obviously when they have an opinion, they have some advice, new information to bring, he'll obviously pass that along to us. So I think what's important to note is that what we're being asked to do is set this date. Now, if new information or something was to change along the way, we could, in theory, withdraw.
And we haven't opened or
Yeah,
closed
we
the
haven't,
warrant
yes,
yet.
thank you. So the sequence would be if we decide to call a special town meeting on this particular date, that next we would have a warrant. Presumably that article would be on that warrant, but if something was to change, we could, up until the moment of, withdraw at any point. And I agree, we should be pursuing any and all options. In parallel to this is happening as well, you know, and so, absolutely, and I obviously ask the manager that if any news comes out of that you share with us and we can share with the community.
Yeah, and so KP is looking into that, not just for us, but for their other clients as well. And right now, it's just not clear whether or not that there's any there, you know, so, but as soon as we find that out, I'll absolutely let the board know, because I think that's
Because there's a question on that too, because I was gonna bring that up on number 9, that it has been determined that it's underfunded mandates, and also towns can seek an exemption.
Right.
Correct.
Now,
I think that came out Friday afternoon, right,
Yeah.
late Friday, actually, so.
what would be an exemption? What would entitle us to file for an exemption?
And so those are, like I said, I'm waiting to hear back from Mark
Okay.
about the specifics, and again, whether or not there's actually any legs to it.
Thank you.
Okay, so if somebody's willing, I'll entertain a motion to set a date, just set a date for a special town meeting
So
of
moved.
May 3rd. Thank you.
May 3rd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the special town meeting, May 3rd? All those in favor, all those opposed? None. Okay, motion passes. I just wanted, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Oh,
Yes,
well,
yeah,
well,
sorry.
sorry.
Just making sure. So the motion passes. So the next step in that sequence would be, at the next meeting or the one after that?
At a subsequent meeting, we will have it,
that.
we'll have the warrant, we'll have a board to consider opening and closing the warrant with a warrant article that's likely to have these, the two warrant articles identical from the September 7th meeting. And hopefully in that interim, we'll find out some more information about this, so we'll all be able to present that at the same time.
And to Mr. West's previous point earlier tonight, I think it makes sense to have Ms. Gingrich, planning director, in perhaps on that same evening,
To talk about both.
to have her here for that,
Yeah.
if possible.
I think that's a great idea.
I
Okay.
agree.
Thank you. Which brings us to item number 9, which is a board to consider endorsing actions of the town manager regarding submission to the MBTA zoning action plan. Mr. Manager, do you care to explain this one?
I do. So as the board discussed, there was a deadline of February 13th for us to submit a compliant action plan. Given the fact that there wasn't a full board at the last meeting, because some people were in Aruba, we made the determination that rather than have a short board take a vote, it made sense for me to just do the submission and then request an endorsement of that action. And so I did submit an action plan that indicated that I would take steps to see that a compliant zoning article was put before town meeting prior to the deadline in July. So that would be the action that I would.
Thank you. And to be clear, that doesn't mean that we're, taking a position either way. It's just that you're going to bring it, we're going to put it in front of the town.
Correct.
And so, once again, we're not changing the vote that took place or undermining a vote that took place. We are being asked, based on what we're learning from the Attorney General's office, that we must put this in front of folks again, and that's exactly what you did. So, thank you. And so, and as you mentioned, Mr. De Palma, we didn't want to take such a significant vote without you here. So, at this time, would anybody like to make a motion on item number 9?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is
I'll
there-
second.
Thank you, Mr. Kyra. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous also. Thank you. So we'll have a lot more to say about that as we find out. And as you can see, more information is coming out by the day.
Yeah.
Just Friday afternoon, and thank you, Mr. West, for sending that along. I think it literally came out Friday evening, Friday afternoon. And so, I think we're all anxious to find out more. Okay. Next up is public comments. Would anyone like to be heard? Sir, good evening.
Good evening. Before I make my public comments, Mr. Chairman, I just would ask a clarification. You just took a vote up on a special town meeting. Did you mean annual town meeting or special town meeting?
So I'll be happy to answer that question, sir. We're going to have a special town meeting within our annual town meeting.
Okay. And last question before I make my comments. Mr. Slagle, can you just clarify for the town the specific water department land that you're looking to build a substation on for the fire department?
Just to clarify, thank you, Mr. McDonald, for the question. If you don't mind, kindly ask if you could direct all questions through the chair, that'd be great. But, Mr. Slagle, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a particular parcel of land in which we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it's in the possession of the Water and Sewer Commission currently, and it would need to be turned over to the town and then be deemed surplus by them, so that the town could potentially pursue a substation at that location.
I think the important caveat is to say, when that land was originally acquired in 1990, town meeting acquired it for water department purposes with the exception of 1 acre, which was set aside in 1990 for a fire substation. So there's already 1 acre of that land that's set aside for a fire substation.
I'm just asking the specific location, what street it's on, whereabouts is it?
So we haven't made that public yet. So I guarantee you it'll be coming out shortly, but the particular piece of land is something we're still discussing internally, so.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that we want to be respectful of the process. Right now, the process includes another commission, which we're not looking to pressure inappropriately in any way. And so, one could do their homework and find out which properties are owned by the Water and Sewer Commission. But I think Mr. Slagle's correct that if we were to make that address public this evening, although we all covet a property for this desired project, it could inappropriately put pressure on another volunteer committee, which I don't think is appropriate of us.
Okay, I was just wondering, because you mentioned about purchasing the railroad bed, and I understand that water department land is fronting on that railroad bed, so I was just curious which one it is. But I'd like to just pass the handout out. Mr. West, if you could just pass this down. While you're passing that down, I just wanted to give a shout out to Wilmington Community Television. I think they do an absolutely terrific job. And I just asked the gentleman, Sam, how much their rent is a month, a year on the building that they're in, and it's $84,000 a year. And so I feel as though they do such a great job, it would be something to entertain to rent out a building for their purposes. My suggestion would be the existing senior center, and I would like to see an integration between Wilmington Community Television and Wilmington High School so that they offer some educational programs to the students at the high school so they could learn audiovisual, camera work, and the other things that go into Wilmington Community Television. And I think that would be a significant reward for giving them a lease for, say, $1 per year to use that building. And since they cover the town meetings and that sort of thing, the existing senior center is right beside the new town hall. So that was just my suggestion on that. Mr. Bendel, through you, I got a question for Mr. Kyra. Mr. Kyra, since, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that Mr. Kyra is on the Town Hall School Administration Committee?
Well, Mr. McDonald, I'm happy to answer that. The answer is yes, but I would put a friendly reminder out there that this is not a Q&A to spot us with a question, but if you want to provide some commentary, that'd be very welcomed.
I have never saw anything that prevents somebody yet from asking a question at these meetings, so I don't know if Mr. Kyra would be willing to answer this. I would think that he should have knowledge of this since he's on the committee and he also reviews the town warrants. But my question is pretty simple. Mr. Kyra, with regard to the cost of the town hall and the school administration building, can you tell us if there's been extra costs, change orders and that sort of thing that have occurred, and do you know any dollar amount that might total out to be roughly?
Mr. McDonald, I'm going to jump in there and just come to the defense of Mr. Kyra or anybody who sits up here that is being spotted with a question that's not on our agenda for this evening. I know well that each of the members that sit to the left and right of me are well prepared to discuss and vote on items that are on tonight's agenda. That item not being on the agenda, I don't think is a fair question to ask somebody. Now, Mr. Kyra very well may know the answer to that, and at the building committee, that might be a great spot for that question. But I don't want to make sure that you understand that if someone doesn't have an exact dollar amount or an exact number,
I said roughly.
again, then I welcome your commentary under public comment, but I just want to remind Mr. Kyra is well-equipped to answer questions, and I don't want to get in front of him, but I do want to say that, this is not a Q&A to try to spot us with.
Okay, before Mr.
I
Kyra
gotcha.
responds, can you tell us what the total warrants were tonight?
Sure, be happy to answer yet another question of yours this evening, Mr. Slagle.
$9,401,077.85.
Okay, so Mr. Bendel, weeks the town meets the Board of Selectmen and they approve warrants. Warrants are on the meeting. They're on the agenda.
Correct.
And the warrants cover payments for the town hall. So for you to tell me that I'm asking a question that's not on the agenda, I disagree with that because, quite frankly, payments for the new town hall and school administration are contained in the warrants. So, with all due respect, if Mr. Kyra would be kind enough, not to me, but for the people of Wilmington, to demonstrate just a simple yes or no question, has there been change orders and extras for the town hall school administration?
And once again, I'll let you know that if
I'm not
you...
looking for your answer, I'm asking Mr. Kyra, yes or no, are you willing to answer it or no?
I know you're not looking for my answer, but I'm giving it to you. Having run the meeting here this evening, I'm going to tell you once again
Just got
that
finished
the
saying,
warrants,
we'll see if Mr. Kyra would like to
public
answer that.
documents that which we sign, with great pride, by the way, these numbers have been allocated at town meeting by the citizens of this town, which are then signed off by our treasurer collector's office and reviewed by a really good staff, and then approved by us, so that our town employees who work a heck of a job every week can get paid, and our bills are paid on time.
And you're supposed to be reviewing the warrants and approving them, correct?
That's what we do.
And Mr. Slagle, the last meeting, stated that employees get paid every single week. So if you meet every 2 weeks, how is it possible that you're reviewing the expenditures for the week that you do not meet? I think the simple answer is you don't. And quite frankly, I highly doubt that you go through all the warrants and make sure that there's not some problem with them and somebody's not getting paid twice or 3 times or even the town's getting hacked. And so for you to get up there and act like you arrogantly do every single meeting, I don't think that's very indicative of leadership qualities, Mr. Bendel. So,
Well, Mr.
yeah, I don't
McDonald, I'm
need
going to
I
go
don't
out
need
on a
your
limb and
opinion on
say
it.
you
Don't
highly
need
doubt
your
a lot of
opinion
things
on
I
it.
do.
But I do have a couple questions for the manager, through you. So, at this meeting, the manager mentioned about the subsurface disposal fund. I'm suspecting that has to do with septic systems to be brought into compliance with Title V. Can you tell us how much money is in the subsurface disposal fund? And if you don't have that answer, can you get it for us the next meeting and have an explanation to the people in town as to what the purposes of that subsurface disposal fund is for and the conditions to be able to tap into that fund?
We'll take that question under advisement.
Does he have the answer now?
He
If
may,
he
but
doesn't have to, but if he has it, would like to hear an answer.
Yes, and I'd like to play by the rules. The rules are that this is public comment, and we're not going to just answer every question that comes into your head this evening, although we are happy to
You don't
provide
answer any
information to any
questions, ever.
residents. Well, by my count, I've actually got 4 or 5 here. We had the yes or no question.
all right,
we
I'll
had
tell
the
you what,
warrant
I'll-
article
I'll
question.
make-
So,
I'll
oh,
keep it
hey, you
short
got to
and
give me a
sweet.
little credit where credit's due. We have answered your questions, sir. And I do want to give the respect to other members of the audience who might have some commentary
So
that
the
they'd like to
the
offer.
last thing I wanted to say, I had you pass out an amendment that I offered at the special town meeting that had to do with an exemption. Mr. De Palma, you mentioned exemption. You heard of exemption. I wrote a lot of letters to the legislatures in the Massachusetts House and the senators. And I offered this amendment to them to find a way for the town to do something for senior housing.
Thank you for that comment.
And so, Mr. Bendel, my question is very simple to you. I listened to all the articles that Mr. Slagle brought forth, and I did not hear one single article that had to do with addressing the senior housing crisis. So, my question is directed to you, Mr. Bendel. Since you set the agenda, are you planning to never do anything to help the seniors out with regard to senior housing?
Mr. McDonald, I would simply say that we take up a lot of important business, and I know that you usually only
that's
walk in
not
during
important.
public comments, but
That's
we
not
took up a
that's
lot
not
of important
business, senior housing?
I think we take up a lot of important things. You may have missed it. I know you only walk in during public comments, but if you enjoyed the entire meeting, you might have learned something. Anybody else like to be
Well, Mr.
heard?
Bendel, why don't you just answer the
Sir,
question?
thank you for your
didn't
time.
answer the question, so you're going to do nothing for
The
senior
chair
housing.
recognizes
That's your
the
answer.
gentleman. Sir, Mr. McDonald, thank you for your comments.
Thank you very little.
Sir, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Maselli, 25 North Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. So you probably know why I'm here, but there's one comment from Mr. McDonald about the building reuse. I know that committee just met tonight, actually. I think that's actually a great idea to look into. So I'd encourage both of you to maybe talk to the committee, and I don't know what they're talking about right now, but it's definitely something to look into because we're going to have a couple of buildings vacant here in town, and obviously I'd love to see WCTV continue to thrive in the coming years because they do so much. So that's a great idea. We should look into that. But wanted to thank you all from the special town meeting last year for just helping to shoot down this article. As I mentioned at town meeting, I was working in the weeks prior to get as much support to say no to Article 1, and we had 288 residents, 5 of which are this board, to vote no. So wanted to thank you all for that. But I know we also mentioned at tonight's meeting, the auditor had had the news on Friday about the mandate being an unfunded mandate. So in light of that news, I'm asking this board tonight to use every available tool and process to permanently end the push to implement 3A in Wilmington. I know this might be coming to a special town meeting in May. I hope it doesn't, but I understand that if you guys do want to bring it back to town meeting, that's totally understandable, especially with the Attorney General's notice, so I do understand that part. So I just hope to have your support on the floor that day as well. Just trying to explore other options, like Mr. West said, for example, for like an exemption. I know I saw Middleton's post the other day, so looking into an exemption as well is something we want to talk about. And I also wanted to share with the board as well. I filed a motion to intervene in December. I was working with a lawyer in the state to join Wilmington onto the Rockport lawsuit. So I had 12 other Wilmington residents have us sign on to this motion to intervene 2 months ago. So we're still pending the outcome of that suit. I've gotten in touch with that gentleman who helped me organize that suit. Haven't heard back yet, but I'm really just trying every option we can to stop this horrible mandate from impacting our town. And I'm hoping that the 30 other towns that voted no are following in the same suit we are, trying to push us down. And I hope to have a 5-0 board to help us once again in May. But thank you all for your time and your leadership. I do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else like to be heard? Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements. Anybody have an important announcements this evening?
I do, Mr. Bendel.
Mr. Carroll.
Yeah, on March 19th, the Town Hall and School Administration Building will have its next meeting. So I would encourage residents, if they have questions regarding different issues, costs, budget, change orders, that they attend that March 19th meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Any other announcements? Mr. West.
There will be at the Town Museum, the Harrington Tavern, on the 23rd of March. They're going to be doing an event in conjunction with the 250th anniversary of the, where it all began. And one of the things that they're going to be doing is that we're going to have the installation of the Wilmington Minutemen offices, and we're planning on inviting all of the prior captains from 1968 forward when the Minutemen first formed. So I'd like to, invite the board as well as the public to come to the installation, and they'll be having tours of the tavern. There'll be some refreshments, and it should be tours of the tavern. I think Matt might have a couple of special displays. There'll be members of the Historical Commission there as well. So, and like I said, free food. So usually that's usually an enticement to bring people down. So if anyone's interested.
Very good. Thank you. Any other announcements? I just wanted to mention the two things quickly, if I could. I had a great opportunity last Thursday. They toured our new senior center, thanks to Director Marciello and the town manager were gracious enough to tour me around, and I just can't describe how incredible it is, and I know a lot of you have gotten a chance to see it. And the grand opening was obviously well attended. I got to watch it on WCTV after work, and it was an awesome time for everybody there. It looked like really well attended, and that's an understatement. But super happy for Terry and her staff and everybody who worked really hard to get that building open. Very, very impressive. And actually, when I drove away from there, I picked up the phone and called Dan Pilata, the OPM from P3, to congratulate him and to thank him, because I had been pretty tough on him in the beginning, quite frankly. And so I thought it was important that I call and thank him for all the great work and tell him how great I thought it came out. So that was one, and so I congratulate all of our citizens to be able to enjoy a beautiful senior center now. And lastly, I wanted to congratulate one of Wilmington's own, Detective Pat Nally. Had an opportunity to honor him last Friday at his retirement ceremony from the police department. It was quite the ceremony, quite the send-off, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
But well-deserving of Detective Pat Nally, and we're really grateful for his many years of service to our community. And he's a fine example of the brave men and women that we have serving our community. Pat's done a wonderful job, and he served with distinction. So I want to congratulate him once again.
No one was spared in that.
Yes. It was a good one. So, congratulations on his, what I hope will be a long, healthy retirement. Okay, is there any new business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move to the important dates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have tomorrow night, February 25th, the Finance Committee will be meeting here in Town Hall in this room, room 9, at 7 o'clock to deal with 4 separate departments: the IT department, the Town Clerk's office, the Historical Commission, and the Planning and Conservation office. And then Thursday, February 27th, the Finance Committee will be meeting again in Town Hall, room 9 at 7 p.m. to discuss police, central dispatch, and fire. So we're wrapping up the FinCom review of the budget by March 6th. On March 5th, there will be a school building committee meeting at the high school in the large instruction room, 6:30 p.m. March 6th is the last meeting of the Finance Committee here at Town Hall, room 9, at 7 p.m. to discuss the budget. They'll be discussing Wilmington Public Schools and Shawshene Technical School budget. March 10th is when our next scheduled Select Board meeting is here at Town Hall, room 9 at 7 o'clock p.m. And then, as mentioned earlier, March 18th, there will be the joint Finance Committee Planning Board public hearing here in Town Hall in the auditorium at 7 o'clock to discuss the annual town meeting warrant. March 20th, there will be a meeting of the Finance Committee here in Town Hall, room 9 at 7 o'clock p.m. And then the next two things are March 24th and April 14th, the next two Select Board meetings, both here at Town Hall, room 9 at 7 o'clock p.m. Respectively. And a reminder, April 16th is the last day to register to vote in the annual town election, annual town meeting. The clerk's office will be open that day until 5 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Finally, this evening is my honor to present our salute to service to Thomas W. Walsh, Mr. Wall served in the United States Air Force from June of 1964 to June of 1968. He served with the 42nd Bomb Wing, Strategic Air Command. His awards include the National Defense Service Medal, Air Force Good Conduct Medal. Tom's heavily involved in the community and recently dropped the puck at the local Heroes hockey game earlier this month, and we're super grateful for his service to our country. But I would be surprised if you don't know Tom by his voice, which I believe still echoes through the football field at Wilmington High School. Tom is the voice of the Wilmington Wildcats. I know Mr. Kara knows this voice well, but if you've ever been to a football game at Wilmington High, then you know Tom's voice. It's right up there with one of the best. You know, Johnny Most, Tom's right up there in terms of announcing. He's outstanding job that he's did that for many, many years for the town. And so for that and other reasons, we salute him, and we thank him for his service to our country. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.